Jenny, wipe down table number 7 again. What kind of work are you doing, leaving stains like that? Agnes's sharp voice rang out, shattering the elegant silence of the restaurant. Jenny lowered her head, suppressing the fury boiling inside her. She quickly moved to table 7 and wiped it down again, even though it was already spotless. This wasn't the first time Agnes had found an excuse to make things difficult for her. From subtle remarks about her skin color to assigning her the heaviest tasks, everything pointed to Agnes's irrational hostility toward her. Every day at this high-end restaurant felt like a silent battle for Jenny. With her ebony skin and voluminous curls, she stood out among the predominantly white serving staff. That difference made her a thorn in the eyes of Agnes, the middle-aged manager with a perpetually stern face and an ever-watchful gaze. Today was no exception. As Jenny was serving a refined-looking lady, Agnes suddenly appeared, her voice laced with acidity. "Jenny, have you seen this lady's Cartier watch? She just reported it missing." Jenny's heart skipped a beat. A Cartier watch. An expensive one. She had never seen it. "Mrs. Agnes, I haven't seen it. I only just brought her drink." "Don't lie. You were the last person near her table. Who else could it be if not a server like you?" Agnes's eyes were sharp as daggers, stabbing into Jenny. The wealthy lady gasped, rummaging frantically through her handbag before exclaiming, "That's right. I clearly remember wearing it when I arrived. It must have gone missing here." The entire restaurant fell silent. All eyes turned to Jenny. She struggled to stay calm, her voice shaking but firm. "I swear I didn't take the watch. Please believe me." But Agnes wasn't interested in hearing her out. "Enough. I don't want to hear any more excuses. Security. Escort this girl out immediately. Jenny, you are fired for theft." Jenny froze. Fired? For a crime she didn't commit? She pleaded, trying to explain, but Agnes remained as cold as ice. The burly security guards approached, forcing Jenny to leave the restaurant in utter humiliation and rage. To make matters worse, the ladies' table was in a blind spot for the security cameras, making Jenny's plea for justice seem utterly hopeless. Stepping out of the lavish restaurant doors, Jenny felt as if her world had collapsed. Her job at the upscale restaurant had been her main source of income, a small source of pride amidst her difficult life. And now, it had all vanished because of a blatant false accusation. But what hurt Jenny the most wasn't losing her job. It was the unbearable injustice, the crushing disappointment of being treated unfairly simply because of her skin color and background. The following days were bleak. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat properly, and her spirit was in shambles. But deep inside, a fire of anger and determination still burned. She couldn't let herself be defeated so easily. On a gloomy afternoon, Jenny made her way to a small cafe near Le Fleur, the restaurant where she had worked. This was where she often met Ben, a close colleague who worked as the sous chef there. Ben was a kind-hearted young man who had always treated Jenny with warmth and respect. "Jenny, when I heard you got fired, I was so worried." Ben rushed over, his face filled with concern. Jenny sorrowfully recounted everything. Ben listened intently, his gentle brown eyes reflecting both sympathy and indignation. "I believe you, Jenny. I know you'd never do something like that." He clasped her hands firmly, his voice unwavering. "We have to do something to clear your name." Ben's words ignited a spark of hope within Jenny. The two began brainstorming, outlining a plan to investigate. Since Ben still worked at the restaurant, he had access to information and could check the security footage. That night, Ben secretly called Jenny. "Jenny, I reviewed the security cameras. It's true that the ladies' table was in a blind spot, but I found something strange." "Something strange?" Jenny asked anxiously. "About 10 minutes before the lady reported her watch missing, I saw Agnes sneaking over to that table. She stood there for a moment, then quickly walked away. The camera didn't capture exactly what she was doing, but my gut tells me something isn't right." A chill ran down Jenny's spine. Agnes had been near the table right before the watch went missing? Could it be that Agnes was behind all of this? Jenny and Ben decided to focus their investigation on Agnes. They began digging into the past of the strict restaurant manager. Ben discreetly questioned longtime employees, gradually uncovering a shocking secret. "Agnes, she's not as respectable as she seems," one of the servers hesitantly told Ben. "She used to be a manager at another restaurant. But that place got shut down after it was caught committing tax fraud and selling counterfeit goods." "Selling counterfeit goods?" Jenny was stunned when Ben told her. "That's right. Word is, Agnes was involved in the operation. But in the end, she walked away scot-free while the restaurant owner took the fall." Ben's voice was heavy with thought. This information opened a new path in their investigation. Could Agnes still be involved in shady dealings at La Fleur? And was the missing Cartier watch somehow connected to her illicit activities? Jenny and Ben decided to tail Agnes. They secretly followed her after work and discovered that she frequently met with suspicious individuals at a hidden casino in the city. One night, Jenny and Ben made a bold decision to break into Agnes's office at the restaurant. They knew it was risky, but they had no other way to find evidence to clear Jenny's name. Under the eerie silence of the office, they searched through every drawer, every file. Finally, they found a small wooden box hidden at the bottom of a cabinet. As they opened it, both of them froze. Inside was a thick stack of documents detailing shady transactions, illicit funds, and a list of counterfeit goods that Agnes had been smuggling through La Fleur. But the most damning discovery of all was an audio recording. A conversation between Agnes and the wealthy lady who had reported her Cartier watch missing. In the recording, Agnes instructed the woman to falsely accuse Jenny of stealing the watch, using it as an excuse to fire her. In exchange, the woman would receive a large sum of money from Agnes. With solid evidence in hand, Jenny and Ben decided to expose Agnes's true colors. They went straight to the owner of La Fleur, a refined middle-aged man who had always trusted Agnes. At first, the owner was skeptical and unwilling to believe Jenny's accusations. But when she and Ben presented irrefutable proof, the audio recording and the stack of documents detailing Agnes's shady transactions, his expression changed. Anger and disappointment clouded his face as he realized the truth about the manager he had trusted for so long. Without hesitation, he summoned Agnes to his office for a confrontation. Faced with undeniable evidence, Agnes completely crumbled. She hung her head in defeat and confessed to everything, from framing Jenny for theft to smuggling counterfeit goods and committing tax fraud. With a bitter voice, she admitted that she had despised Jenny out of jealousy of her youth, her beauty, and her integrity. She had wanted to get rid of Jenny to cover up her own crimes. The restaurant owner immediately fired Agnes and reported her criminal activities to the police. He then turned to Jenny with a heartfelt apology, offering her a chance to return to La Fleur, not just as a waitress, but with a promotion and a well-deserved raise. Jenny accepted the offer. She returned to La Fleur not just as an employee, but as a fighter, someone who had unmasked a villain and reclaimed justice for herself. On her first day back, every staff member welcomed her with admiration and respect. From that day forward, Jenny's work at La Fleur was smoother, and she was treated with the dignity she had always deserved. As time passed, Jenny gradually settled into her new life at La Fleur. She was promoted to shift supervisor, earning the trust of the owner and the admiration of her colleagues. It seemed that the nightmare of Agnes had long faded into the past. But Jenny had no idea that, somewhere in the shadows, Agnes's hatred still burned, waiting for the right moment to erupt. After serving 2 years in prison, Agnes was released. But incarceration had not reformed her. Instead, it had only fueled the fire of resentment in her heart. She blamed Jenny for her downfall, for losing everything she once had. The thought of revenge became an obsession, pushing her to craft a sinister and calculated plan to destroy Jenny's life from within. Agnes knew that confronting Jenny directly was impossible. Jenny had secured her place at La Fleur, surrounded by people who respected and protected her. So instead, Agnes chose a different path, a methodical and insidious plan, one that would slowly unravel Jenny's world from the inside out. First, she began gathering information. She studied Jenny's life, her family, friends, daily routines, vulnerabilities, and most importantly, the people she loved. Like a ghost lurking in the background, Agnes watched and waited for the perfect opportunity. One day, Agnes discovered that Jenny had a younger sister named Lisa, a college student struggling financially. An idea sparked in her mind, one that was as cruel as it was brilliant. She would use Lisa to get to Jenny. Agnes reinvented herself, adopting a completely new persona. She changed her appearance, dressed elegantly, applied flawless makeup, and took on a sophisticated alias, Madame Claire. Under this disguise, she approached Lisa at a university library, pretending to be a wealthy philanthropist eager to help underprivileged students. Lisa, a kind-hearted and trusting girl, fell easily into Agnes's trap. Madame Claire played her role flawlessly. She showered Lisa with attention, taking her out for meals, shopping, and offering a sympathetic ear to her worries. Slowly, Agnes gained Lisa's trust, skillfully steering their conversations toward Jenny. Lisa, unaware of the true identity of the woman before her, spoke openly about her sister, about Jenny's job, the struggle she had endured, and even the wrongful accusation by her former manager, Agnes. She never suspected that the gracious and generous Madame Claire was, in fact, the very woman who had once tried to destroy Jenny's life. Once Agnes had gathered enough information and secured Lisa's trust, she set her plan into motion. She orchestrated a situation that left Lisa drowning in debt, desperate for money. Then, like a savior, Madame Claire offered to help. On one condition, Lisa had to do her a small favor involving Jenny. Agnes never revealed her true intentions. She framed it as a personal issue with Jenny, something she needed Lisa's help to resolve misunderstandings. She promised Lisa a generous sum, enough to clear her debts and give her a better life. Because of her financial struggles and blind trust in Madame Claire, Lisa agreed to help, completely unaware that she was being used in a cruel revenge scheme. Agnes assigned her a simple task: secretly plant a listening device in Jenny's office at Le Fleur. With this device, Agnes could monitor Jenny's every move and gather information, allowing her to plan her revenge with ruthless precision. Naive and oblivious to the danger she was placing her sister in, Lisa carried out the task without hesitation. One quiet evening, when the restaurant was nearly empty, she sneaked into Le Fleur and discreetly installed the device in Jenny's office. From that moment on, every conversation, every decision Jenny made in her office was at Agnes's fingertips. Armed with this information, Agnes began crafting her revenge, methodically, step by step, with a level of cruelty and cunning no one could have anticipated. She was determined not only to strip Jenny of her job but to utterly destroy her reputation, her career, and her life, forcing Jenny to suffer the same disgrace and humiliation that Agnes had once endured. One evening, while working late in her office, Jenny suddenly heard a strange noise coming from behind the filing cabinet. Her heart pounded as she cautiously approached and carefully pulled the cabinet away. She froze in shock when she saw a small black device, cleverly disguised beneath a layer of dust. Jenny immediately recognized it as a professional listening device. Her mind raced. There was only one person who had both the motive and the hatred to do this: Agnes. Elsewhere, Lisa was living in a torment of guilt. Every night, she dreamt of Jenny's disappointed face, of her sister's silent tears. The weight of her betrayal was unbearable. Lisa knew she couldn't keep living this lie. She had to make things right, no matter the cost. Determined to turn the tables, Jenny, Lisa, and Ben devised an intricate plan to trap Agnes. Using the very device that had been planted in Jenny's office, they decided to strike back. With his knowledge of technology, Ben modified the device, turning it into a two-way tool. Not only would it transmit information, but it could also be used to feed false data to Agnes. They crafted a fake conversation in which Jenny and Ben discussed a large sum of money that the restaurant was about to transfer to the bank. They deliberately emphasized the time, location, and method of transport, creating an irresistible opportunity for Agnes and her accomplices. The fabricated conversation was played repeatedly in Jenny's office, ensuring that whoever was listening would take the bait. Jenny, Ben, and Lisa's plan was to lure Agnes and her gang to the fake cash transfer location, where the police had already set up an ambush. They knew it was a risky gamble, but it was their only chance to capture Agnes once and for all and end the threat hanging over Jenny's life. The fateful night arrived. According to the plan, Jenny pretended to leave the restaurant carrying a suitcase filled with shredded paper, making it look as if she was transporting a large sum of money. Ben and Lisa watched from a distance, ready to intervene if anything went wrong. Meanwhile, the police had surrounded the area, lying in wait. Agnes and her gang took the bait. Just as Jenny reached the meeting spot, a black car screeched to a stop in front of her, blocking her path. Agnes stepped out, a triumphant smirk on her face, her eyes gleaming with malice and satisfaction. "Well, well, my dear Jenny. Looks like we finally meet again, huh?" Agnes sneered. "Did you really think you could outsmart me? Keep dreaming." Before Jenny could respond, Agnes's goons lunged at her. But Jenny was ready. She dodged their clumsy attacks and signaled Ben and Lisa to make their move. From the shadows, Ben and Lisa suddenly appeared, and at that very moment, the police stormed in, surrounding the gang. Chaos erupted. Agnes's men fought back fiercely, pulling out knives and pepper spray in a desperate attempt to escape. Jenny, Ben, and Lisa fought alongside the police, working in perfect sync to defend themselves and subdue the criminals. The night was filled with the sounds of shouting, crashing, and the crack of gunfire echoing through the streets. Agnes stood back, her face contorted with rage and disbelief. She had never expected her perfect plan to collapse so disastrously. Realizing she was losing, Agnes played her last, desperate card. She lunged at Jenny, a sharp knife clutched in her hand, her eyes burning with unrelenting hatred. "You little bitch! I'll kill you tonight," she screamed. Jenny didn't flinch. She stood her ground, waiting for the right moment. As Agnes swung the knife, Jenny swiftly sidestepped and delivered a powerful kick to her wrist, sending the weapon flying. Without hesitation, Jenny followed up with a series of precise strikes, bringing Agnes to her knees. Agnes collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath, her eyes filled with shock and defeat. One by one, her men were arrested. Moments later, Agnes herself was handcuffed and dragged to the police car, humiliated and powerless. The trial of Agnes and her gang was swift and just. The courtroom was solemn as her long list of crimes, attempted murder, kidnapping, extortion, smuggling, fraud, and defamation, was read aloud. The verdict was clear. Agnes was sentenced to death for her heinous crimes. Her accomplices received long prison sentences, paying the price for their blind loyalty and insatiable greed. Back at Le Fleur, Jenny, Ben, and Lisa resumed their lives, working hard and rebuilding their future. Their story of courage, justice, and resilience became a lasting reminder that no matter how deep hatred and crime run, the light of truth and determination would always prevail.